Testing. You have this right here. If you have this, I don't have it.
Welcome to the 2020 APTA National Championships presented by our local sponsor, BTIG, and APTA national sponsors, Viking and Uline. We are live from the Country Club of Darien in Connecticut on the APTA network presented by eNet Live. I'm Patty Hogan, and I am nervous, ready, excited to be sitting alongside Mark Fischel for this incredible semifinal matchup between our tournament number one seeds, John Hughes and Mark Powers, against national champion Durant, Johan Durant, Stephen Mitchell. This is going to be a battle, Mark.
Yeah, it's really exciting, Patty. Let's introduce the players to our fans. So in the gray hoodie is Johan Durant. His partner to his left, dressed in all black, is Stephen Mitchell. On the far side of the court, the left-hander in the black vest is John Hughes, and his partner in the blue sweatshirt is Mark Powers. So these are, I think, unquestionably the two most dynamic teams in the country. Hughes and Powers have played in the last two national finals. Durant had a stretch of, I think, 6 consecutive national finals. First time he's been this far with Mitchell. This is their second year playing together. And it should be fun and fast. Just 4 tremendous athletes.
And Mark, we started out the weekend with 64 teams in the men's, 128 in the women's, 64 in our first ever PTI Men's Open Nationals, which will follow this match. And, not a lot of surprises that the semis have revealed themselves to be, involved with these 4 teams here. And Hughes and Powers, what a win last night. Compton Kaler just had an amazing second set and got crushed by John and Mark in that semi-first set, but then came back, and they showed why they're one of the top men's teams in the country. And then Durant and Mitchell, Johan's been the human highlight reel in our sport, Mark, forever.
Well, let's talk about the matchup. These teams played in Boston in the finals, a match that Durant and Mitchell had a couple of set points in the first set. Hughes and Powers come back, winning straight sets. Then they play 2 weeks later in Short Hills. Hughes and Powers are coming off a 3.5-hour battle with Burish and Erdoya and just seemingly had nothing left and got absolutely walloped, I think 11-2. But I don't think any of that matters today. Do you, Patty?
No, I think this is brand new. It's the semis. These guys started off the year, ended last season thinking about trying to return into the national final. The only way you do that, pick off these matches one at a time here and get through this semifinal matchup.
Well, Hughes and Powers have lost one match at nationals in the last 3 years. And that was the final last year, 7-5 in the third to Uriah Parsons. They won the year before that. Let's take a fast look at the draw to see how everybody got here. Okay, so there you see Broderick Palmer coming off of their demolition. I think that's a good choice of words, Patty.
That was a demolition.
Mark Parsons said if they played 6 more games, then Broderick Palmer would have won 6 more games. Burish Erdoya with a spectacular 3-6, 7-5, 7-5 win over Anderson Bostrom, a match that Anderson Bostrom had 2 match points at 5-4 in the third. Durant Mitchell threw relatively unscathed, and then obviously we talked about the amazing match between Hughes Powers and Compton Kaler. So back to the court. How do you think Hughes Powers are going to deal with the sidearm serves? We saw a lot of blitzing from Uriah Parsons in Philadelphia and really hurt him with it. But they don't tend to blitz a lot, Hughes and Powers.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting tactic of how they're going to manage and go through this match. But they've seen the sidearm all year, Mark. Everybody started doing it from the beginning of the season. So I've got to feel like they'll make an adjustment. And if it's a short ball, will they clock it at the partner at the net, Mark? I've been waiting for that tactic to reveal itself. And their stakes no higher than trying to get into the finals today. So
you had mentioned yesterday, Patty, that we didn't see it from Mark Powers. And I think one of the reasons we didn't is because Scott Kaler's return to serve, while really a solid shot, is not an explosive one. I do think we're going to see it today against the best forehand returner in the country in Johan Durant. The other interesting thing to me today is in Boston, So Mitchell always returns from the left, and in Boston they switched sides, and Durant played the backhand during the course of play. In Short Hills, he stayed there because Hughes' spin really bothered Mitchell in Boston. So that's the other question that's going to be answered relatively early for us is where's Durant going to be? Okay, we're going to go to our chair umpire in a minute, but any other thoughts of the match, Patty?
Mark, your point was spot on about the spin, and I think I'm going to look for Mitchell versus
Ladies and gentlemen,
John Hughes.
welcome to the 2020 APTA National Championships. This semifinal round match is best of 3 sets with tie breaks. To my right, from Wayland, Massachusetts, Johan Durant. His partner from Natick, Massachusetts, Stephen Mitchell. To my left, from Enfield, Connecticut, John Hughes. His partner from New York, New York, Mark Powers. Hughes Powers won the toss, and they have elected to receive.
The John Hughes family is here again in force. As people are starting to file in, it's early, but there are a lot of people here, Patty.
Yeah, Mark, and going back to the point that you made that I was just commenting on about the spin, John Hughes has added such spin to his overhead in the last 2 seasons and just can dismantle opponents over in that, in the deuce corner a little bit more even than the ad corner. And so I will look for, they're going to find Stephen Mitchell all day and see if he can stand up to those spins.
Although the spins are a lot easier to deal with coming from a lefty from the ad court. And that spin overhead really kind of galvanizes and energizes John Hughes. So if Durant's over there in the deuce court, which I expect to see, they're going to be taking that away from him.
Right, so I think that's one of the tactics in play here. And, these guys come out here and they have plan A, B, C, and D. And for Durant Mitchell, plan A, let Johan do his thing.
It's going to be fun to watch.
Mark, I felt so much a relief last night when Hughes and Powers pulled out that second set tiebreaker. I mean, I felt the sense of relief that they felt to get through that match. They did not want to go 3 sets last night and not be as fresh for this match this morning.
Okay, so we're waiting for John Hughes. Looking for one last energy drink.
Little bit of water, and this is one of the best matches I think we're ever going to see, Mark.
Okay, here we go. This is Johan Durant in the gray hoodie serving to John Hughes.
Love 15.
Kind of an inauspicious start.
15 all. $30-15. $30 all.
4 points, no lobs. And there you see Durant quickly switching to the deuce side. Of course, when Durant plays the deuce side, he plays half of the ad side too. And you see that aggressive court positioning from Durant. Right over by the center hash. Mitchell misses the forehand. And one of the issues here is how's Stephen Mitchell going to react to this? Because this is the biggest stage he's ever played a paddle match on.
Well, and Powers welcomed him to the stage with that forehand and now that backhand. I fully anticipate they're going to go at Stephen and see if he can stand up to, on his volley. And that's the thing that's improved them so much in the last 2 years. Stephen's gotten used to the big stage, and I mean, he's an incredible paddle player.
We estimated we had over 1,000 people here yesterday, Patty. And I think we may have more today. Much nicer weather. That's a big stage.
Oh, you guys did an amazing job. You, Carl, and Tiernan Cavana here at Country Club of Darien. Beautiful setup. So many clever things all around the site. Walked up last night, saw the semis of the PTI, first 5 games of the men's semis. As big a crowd up there watching, Mark, as we're watching down here. Real special for all the PTI Open players.
And this is one of the changes we've seen from Durant. Powers
just
catches the
gonna
lead
say.
cord.
Yeah, 2 years ago, 3
Advantage
years
Hughes
ago.
Powers.
You never saw Durant go into slow down mode. He wouldn't even dream of just hitting those push shots down the middle.
Oh, great
Wow.
cut overhead. And that's the danger of
Deuce.
lobbing Durant too much towards Mitchell. I know Parsons Araya really focused on lobbing him cross court. Parsons did. So he couldn't run behind and hit that ball.
That's a great point,
Advantage Durant Mitchell.
Mark. Closer he gets, the more spin he can put on that cutter in a way, that slash shot.
Couple of missed forehands from Hughes Powers.
Game
They
Durant
don't
Mitchell.
take advantage of their break
They
opportunity.
lead the first set.
Yeah,
one
so when
game to
Durant's
love.
moving to his left, he can't set quite as well and generate nearly as much spin as he does when he's moving to his right. So that was the strategy they had in Philadelphia, and it worked out really well for them.
And the sidearm serving from Durant there produced a couple of errors, dumps in the middle of the net to start it out. But it is the semis of nationals, and I'm sure there's lots of nerves going all around between, among all the 4 players.
Okay, so here we go. Mark Powers to serve to Johan Durant.
15 love.
And Hughes will be serving sidearm to the deuce court and
Powers.
Powers, thank you, and overhand to the ad court. Hughes will be serving overhand. He'll be the only player in the court serving overhand exclusively. Another let cord.
30 love.
Did John apologize?
I think he did verbally.
30-15.
That catches Hughes in the shoulder.
30 all.
He might think about the sidearm serve.
He apologized there too. And there, Powers going overhand.
I don't think Powers has as much confidence in the sidearm serve as some of these other players, Mark.
Well, that looked like I might have missed. Yeah, I think that, Durant Mitchell clearly the team that's embraced it the most, which is surprising because Durant's serve, especially to the ad court, is terrific. The overhand serve.
Sure, but if it sits up and, it lets these guys tee off. We saw Compton Kaler last night. They're high ball hitters.
40-30.
Most of these players want that high bouncing ball and will almost, just throw up lobs off that lower ball.
Boy, Mitchell looks sharp early with the forehand. Yeah, the high bouncing ball clearly is what they want, but for the righties, the real good righty serves can hit that hard serve into the pocket and get the side wire first. That's a tough return. There you see that short ball from Hughes. Likes that little kind of vying shot. Setting up the Powers power. Is that okay? The Powers power?
Powers power. Powers superpowers.
Boy, he put on his Superman cape yesterday. Boy, did he play some match.
Marge, we spoke a little bit last night with Jim Kaufman about the need for Hughes and Powers to lob well. They're going to really have to lob well in this match because Mitchell and Durant, 2 righties, They just form that wall. It is hard to get a drive through. And Mark, the first year I saw Mitchell and Durant pair up, I always felt like Stephen Mitchell, when he was up at the net in this position, just deferred to Johan so much. And I feel like he holds his ground now, and he's up there, and he's looking for the volley as opposed to wondering if Johan's going to stick his paddle in front of him. And I think Johan, to his credit, what an amazing partner for Stephen Mitchell, and really has total trust and confidence in Mitchell at this point.
A great move there from Powers.
Yeah, so Stephen can be Stephen Mitchell. He's got superpowers as well.
One of the things that's been discussed amongst a number of the players is, can you win a national championship having played only with one person and only as the support player? You know, everybody else we're seeing today has played with multiple partners and has been the guy on the court. And that's not true of Mitchell.
But I say yes.
Certainly no by the end of the day. A great play from Hughes. Now he's got Mitchell over there. And they get Mitchell out quickly. Powers beats Durant in transition. And we saw a lot of that from Powers yesterday.
Hughes,
really
Powers.
closing off the net. Did that brilliantly.
Well, you kind of feel like Hughes and Powers, as the #1 seeds, are the favorites here in this match.
Are they the
But
favorites, you think, Patty?
I think they are the favorites, having only lost one match in 3 years, as you pointed out, Mark.
At Nationals.
At Nationals, which the stage is like no other. I think Durant's going to have a spectacular match here for them to pull this out. I think they can.
Great job for Powers there. Came in behind that ball. Definitely questionable decision, but bailed himself out with his hands.
And questionable with that, it was a risky play, Mark, but
Yeah, I mean, the ball just came off the back wire way too hard to follow it to net.
he's so fast that he just threw it in there just to see if maybe he could just, a little surprise appearance there.
Miss from Hughes takes us back to deuce. And they're hitting a lot of softballs down the middle to Hughes' forehand. Wild forehand from Durant. You don't see too much of that.
Advantage Hughes, Powers.
Actually, when he misses the forehand, you want to alert the media. Patty, what's your over-under on the other match? How long do you think it's going to take?
I think they'll be serving lunch before that match is over.
Well, that doesn't say much.
Well, what
Lunch
time
is
do
at
they
11.
start serving lunch at
11.
Country Club at Darien? Oh, 11? Well, I'm not going to eat lunch till noon, Mark, so I say noon is the over.
Okay, I'm going to take the over, Patty. There, Powers gets beaten there.
Deuce.
Great job by Mitchell closing the net off. Interesting that early it's more been the Mitchell. Oh, Mitchell started to change there. More been the Mitchell return of serve than the Durant one that's been so effective.
Powers might have played an out little lob there,
Yeah, I
but
thought
would
it was
have been a
going
tough
wide.
shot to let go if it were to fall.
That one might have been wide too. And there you see, oh, look at that ball explode off the back wire. But you see they're looking for Mitchell. Hughes is looking for Mitchell with that overhead. And you love to see that play from Mitchell, cutting to the middle of the court with his forehand. You'd have to expect to see a few more overheads from Powers today.
Yeah, they've got to go to. Mitchell's going to get, what, 80% of the shots for their team on the baseline, and I would expect John Hughes to get 70% of them. I just think Durant and Powers, you just don't want to give them that many hits. There's no weakness out here on the court anywhere, quite honest, so then you just have to pick which guy you can better defend the majority of his shots against.
Berger Doya opened with an early break. A couple of thumping forehands off the paddle of Mikor Doya.
Oh, he thumped a few at the end of that match last night. They came back from down 3-5 to take out Anderson and Bostrom, 7-5, third set.
Double match point.
Yeah,
and
Anderson.
apparently on one of the match
Advantage,
points,
Hughes
Bostrom
Powers.
played a ball that was clearly out, substantiated by chair umpire Marshall Chapin.
He might get the award as the nicest guy then.
Yeah, I don't know that he's interested in receiving that award today.
Anderson got hurt, rolled his ankle there in that match, and definitely impacted their play in that third set.
Tremendous effort from Blake Anderson, an absolute warrior. I saw the sprain, it was bad. I mean, the turn of the ankle was just, yeesh. There, oh, great blitz from Powers, and he misses it.
Great move, though, Mark.
Deuce.
Really deep lob. Steven, was looking at that ball up for a long time. Didn't get to see Mark moving forward toward the net.
They've had 4 opportunities to close this game out. Been unable to do so far. Great lob from Mitchell.
Talk about a high, deep lob. There you had it. You don't think about the need to lob really well necessarily when you think about Durant and Mitchell, but they definitely have to because Hughes and Powers are such good volleyers up there, such quickness. So both teams are going to really have to work on opening up the court.
It's interesting, Patty. Last year, we saw a spectacular semifinal in Nationals, Hughes and Powers beating Broderick Palmer. And I really felt for Hughes and Powers it was hard to come back in the finals and find that level again. And I'm wondering if that's going to be an issue for Broderick Palmer today because they were so good yesterday. And having to come back again the next day.
Advantage, Durant Mitchell.
I don't worry about that for Broderick Palmer because they're a team unlike no other, and that draw came out, and Drew's a master tactician.
Another
and
great return from Mitchell.
Thought about every set that he would have to play to return to the finals of the Nationals, and they clearly had a phenomenal plan to take out Juan and Mark yesterday. I think it was just a step along the way. I don't feel like it involved a lot of their emotional energy.
Yeah, it wasn't emotional energy. It's kind of like when a golfer shoots 62 on Saturday and then has to play on Sunday. That's wide. Okay, game Durant Mitchell. So each team has game
Durant
opportunities
Mitchell.
in the first
They
two
lead the
games, but
first
Durant
set,
Mitchell
2
win
games
both
to
of
love.
them.
And Mark, I actually think Hughes and Powers are a little bit of a question. I do feel they had an emotional win last night. I felt like Compton and Kaler just played such a marvelous second set there, and they were able to
115.
escape. I think that'll be interesting to see their response from that.
Yeah.
Okay, Johan was
115.
talking, Mitchell was serving, replaying the point. Back-to-back
Love
faults
30.
to start from Mitchell.
But the sidearm serve If they get it in the box deep, Mark, it does take away
15-30.
those powerful drives from Hughes and Powers.
Oh, sorry, love 40, yep.
That ball
Apologies.
hit Mitchell. Love 40. There's Durant cutting across the middle with his unparalleled anticipation. Just remarkable, Patty. Like he knows where the ball's going before you do.
What's interesting is, 2 games ago, Johan hit that cutter that went for a winner up the middle, moved away from John Hughes as it hit, and I haven't seen him hit it again. He's
Game
hit
Hughes Powers.
many more
Durant
rollers.
Mitchell lead the first set, 2-1.
That was a sloppy game. 2 faults and a missed overhead. Viking Athletics is the premier brand and the undisputed leader in platform tennis. Viking is platform tennis. The Viking Extra Duty platform ball has been the #1 selling ball in the industry for the last 20 years. It's the official ball of the APTA, of the APTA Nationals and President's Cup, and of course of the APTA Grand Prix Tour. Any early thoughts?
I think a little bit of nerves, Mark. I think Steven's serving game right there was a little weak. He had 2 faults, understandable. And I think when the guys are used to serving overhand for so many years under competition, that sidearm serve is a little nerve-wracking. You have to have a lot of confidence to be able to use it on the big stage.
Great pickup there from Hughes. Durant with kind of a crazy backhand. And it looks like we're going to have
15
a
love.
special guest announcer joining us, someone who's very unhappy to be here in the booth.
We just saw his picture when he was a youngster. When he started
30
playing
love.
paddle with his first Viking paddle. Welcome, Mark Parsons.
30-15.
Mark, welcome to the booth.
Good to be here.
It really is?
I would rather be on the court, obviously, but it's actually nice and warm in here, not so much out there.
So that's why you agreed to do this, so you'd be warmer?
It was part of the reason.
30 all.
What are you seeing so far, Mark?
I'm seeing Mitchell's return to serve working, and he's hitting that forehand instead of sometimes when he maybe doesn't hit it. And obviously the switching in the backcourt to get Johan on the deuce side to deal with Hughes' spins. And, smart match so far. These guys are still figuring each other out and seeing which way this match will go.
Mark, I know you were busy yesterday afternoon, but you ran against Broderick Palmer, team of the past, with that high level of play. They just dismantled you guys.
Well,
they were systematic. And
first off, I've got to correct you. I don't think it's a team of the past. I think it's a team of the present. Look, you're talking about arguably 2 of the greatest players to play the game, meaning there's a handful of them that are out there, and those guys are in the conversation
30,
as being
40.
those players. And they're big match players, they're big tournament players, and I expected nothing less from the 2 of them to play that way, and I expect them to play that way today.
we're getting cozy in this booth here, Mark.
I'm going
Mark.
to take my jacket off. I'm getting too warm in here.
I've got a Mark sandwich. Lucky me. Yeah, they've won 3 national titles together. Drew has a
Game
4th.
Durant Mitchell. They lead the first set 3-1.
It didn't surprise anyone that they showed up, and it was unfortunate for you guys that you had them in your quarter of the draw. You guys are defending national champs, had that wonderful win in Pittsburgh last year. I mean, that was a phenomenal thing. That was your 4th Open national title, Mark?
Yes.
And your first, you were so nice to team up with Juan Ryan, help him cross that, that amazing.
Again, I would argue with you, Patty, that he helped me get that one. But look, we last year was great in Pittsburgh, and look, this year was great. I played a little less than probably I wanted to, but just kind of the way it was with a few injuries early in the season, and but felt good this entire weekend and last weekend, and again, we'll see what happens with next year.
Yeah,
John-
but you guys
Love.
had some lights out matches this season where you guys got to that level, as the best team in the sport, and unfortunately ran into Broderick and Palmer. Didn't really let you guys get into that match yesterday.
That would be the understatement.
Hughes has been a little shaky early, Mark. A couple of missed overheads, several missed forehands.
15 all.
His level really dropped in the second set last night against Compton Kaler. And
Yeah,
he just
I didn't see the end of the Compton Kaler match, but again, I think this is still in the feel-out process. I know we're 4 games in, but it's semifinals of nationals. People are walking in. There's still a bunch of getting into their groove, so to speak.
30-15.
That being said, against Johan and Mitchell, if you don't find your groove quickly, you may not find your groove until you're in the showers after the match.
Yeah, that last miss off the wires is the ball you expect him to put in play 10 times out of 10.
And I think that low ball to John Hughes, we know in the deuce court, is a spot that these guys can really probably use successfully here.
Well, Mark, you were very successful last year, just dumping the ball softly to the Hughes forehand. Oh, played that ball.
Mark, could you explain something to me?
40-15.
You have no first-hand experience with what I'm going to ask you, because you've never been the guy that that anyone went after in a match as one of the greatest players our games have ever seen. But John Hughes knows he's going to be the guy who they're going to go after in this match. How does he handle that?
Well, I mean, look, well.
I'm just curious because
and here's the funny part about that. I actually think if you look at what they're doing with Hughes, in my opinion,
Game,
they're dumping
Durant
to his
Mitchell.
forehand, they're dumping to the middle. They're actually not going
They
into
lead
the
the
side
first
wires. If
set,
anything,
4
they're going
games
into
to
power
1.
side wires when Johan's getting the shorter overhead. And yes, while they're playing Hughes to get access to the balls that they want, there's that level of where Hughes probably doesn't even realize that they're doing that, meaning that the pick on stage isn't in his corner, and that's a totally different mentality. And I think Hughes's job is to get balls high enough and away from Johan's down the line overhead in order to keep Powers in the point in regards into screenplay, so that he can be offensive off of screens instead of defensive.
Yeah, right now Hughes looks a little shaky to me, and we've kind of passed the feeling out stage.
Yeah, 4-1. This is definitely where the jitters have to be gone, and if not, again, these matches, as we know with all paddle matches, including mine last night, can go very, very quickly in one direction.
Yeah, Mitchell looks very comfortable out there, really ripping that return of serve.
Well, and that was what we, I was sitting out there with the Rose brothers, and he hit his first 2 forehand returns, and we all looked at each other like he's feeling it. And when he's feeling that return, because Johan's probably got the best forehand return I've ever seen in the game. When Mitchell's hitting his forehand return, it's going to be very difficult on the serving team.
Did you see the point, maybe it was the third game, where Mitchell went across the center hash and stuck in front of Durant and hit a forehand?
It happens every now and then.
But I thought that was just a great sign at how aggressive he is, because he's going to need to play that way in order to win today.
Correct. And Mitchell, doesn't have any experience in this point of nationals, and him being able to be a little bit freer and play freely. That's a great move there by Johan. Is what's going to take those guys potentially to the final and potentially to win nationals.
Well, the interesting thing to me is, Hughes obviously has got a lot of experience, having been here. I guess this is his 4th year in a row in the semis. Mitchell's never been here before. Mitchell looks a lot more comfortable to me this morning than Hughes.
That forehand was very comfortable.
Yeah, because he has that forehand.
The other thing we talked about earlier, Mark, was Johan's willingness to play the center of the court more, which I think he fought you on for years when you guys were partners.
I don't know if he fought me on it per se. We had lots of discussions about it, and I think in his head he truly wanted to do it. When you've got the options that he has, it's difficult, and meaning difficult to play slow or slower. But look, Johan's game has changed in the last 2 years. I've seen it. I think everyone has seen it, and he's in a good place mentally and how he wants to play the game. Him and I were actually trading text messages this morning, and look, he's ready, and that's what you're seeing right now. And
Love
I think
30.
Hughes and Powers are going to have to figure something out very quickly, or they're going to be down a set in this semi.
Yeah, I got to say I attribute some of Johan's motivation,
15, 30.
some of Johan's motivation, Mark, to your winning nationals last year. That couldn't have made him very happy. And I'm not saying he wasn't happy for you, but two guys split up who've had the success that you guys had. One wins, one loses in the 16s. Johan's a pretty competitive guy.
Yes and no. I mean, look, I think, again, look, he congratulated me last year and all that stuff. Johan and I are still very good friends, and our split was very
15,
mutual in that,
40.
look, we never got to play together other than tournaments, and I think there was just an agreement among us both to kind of move in different paths. And look, he's taken, and I know him and Mitchell work on their game a ton, and you can see the difference that's happened on both their games. And
They have a business together.
Game, Durant, Mitchell.
Yes.
SA Rackets, so they're obviously
lead the
very
first
close,
set
spend a lot
5
of time
games to
together.
1.
Absolutely, and look, I think a lot of his motivation has been that he wanted to get out on the court more and practice more and be more ready for matches and for tournaments, and I think it's definitely showing. You're seeing the results. I mean, I think Johan's played better this year than I've ever seen him play.
Not sure I'm willing to go that
That's
far.
saying something, Mark.
So let me rephrase that. He's playing better paddle, fundamental paddle, than he's ever played.
That I would agree with.
There was one point in time in the first set, and I forget the game score, where he would have ripped an overhead, and if he had made it, he would have won the point, but he probably would have been 50-50 on it, and he pushed it to the middle, and they waited for about another minute and a half, and they won the point. And that's the difference, I think, with Johan now, is that he still has every shot and more than what we saw 3-4 years ago. The difference is now is he's waiting for the perfect ball to hit that shot instead of trying to hit it on every shot.
Well, right now they are rolling. Hughes Powers have got to find some answers.
I would add one thing to that, in that I said it early, Mark Parsons, before you were in the booth, that Johan now has so much trust in Steven playing, and I think Johan going to a little bit more of a conservative shot selection pattern on his overheads is making it easier for Mitchell to be involved and feel really confident and look for that volley that he's got to defend up there at the net. This is the position they're in 95% of the time, and I just used to feel like Johan would almost move in front of him too much, and Mitchell had a really hard time to see the ball to volley it well.
I'm familiar with that move.
Yes, I know you are. How did you not get hit?
I'm pretty sure I did a couple times, but
Another missed forehand from Hughes.
15, Love.
yeah, they're going to have to. Hughes and Powers are going to have to make a decision on what pace they want to play here very quickly, and it's a good forehand there from Mark.
I just think Hughes has got to
15
lob
all.
better to get Powers some more swings.
They love playing fast, Mark. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, and we knew
15,
Taylor
30.
Compton would slow down that quarterfinal match. But it's hard to play fast when you look up and see Durant Mitchell on the other side.
And there, to your point, Mark,
15,
was
40.
Durant bailing, something you never would have seen 3 years ago. Unfortunately, Mitchell didn't bail. Oh, sloppy game from Mitchell.
And a
Game,
good
Hughes,
return game
Powers.
from Powers. He stepped in after
Durant,
a few
Mitchell
balls
lead
and
the
ripped a few
first game,
forehands, and that's
lead
what
the
these
first
guys are going to
set,
have to
5
do to
games
get back
to
in
2.
the set.
Barisher Doy out to an early 4-1 lead.
Check that one. All right.
Okay, switching balls here in the sevens. What do you think Hughes and Powers need to do to turn things around?
Look, at this point, I think they've got to try and get to the net. I mean, which is easier said than done. But at the same time, they're in the backcourt. They're not really able to create much right now. So, them getting to the net and at least starting to control pace of play is probably where I'd start.
The only 2 games they've won were the ones that Mitchell served. And they're rated by a couple of faults. I think Mitchell's faulted 4 times in the 2 games he served. Oh, that is nasty.
15 love.
But the evolution of the Hughes overhead has been something to see. Yeah. 2 hard ones going at Mitchell. Patty and I talked about that in the pregame show. You have to expect to see more of that. He just tore him up in Boston.
Yep, well, that's the struggle, and that was the one question mark. How would he handle the Hughes spin?
Well, the counter to that would be to start the lob powers. And, even from Johan down the line or Mitchell lobbing cross court and just not give Hughes the overhead opportunity there. But
and there Mitchell takes advantage of it. That one sat up a little bit.
That one hung a little high.
30-15.
And that's a hard overhead for a lefty. There are only a few balls he'll be able to take back straight to Mitchell.
Really good serve up the middle right
40-15.
Point for 5-3. Doya really rolling over there.
And a fan club. They got the biggest ovation I heard all week on their introductions.
And the biggest posters. Giant posters of their heads over there.
Misses that one wide, and it's 5-3.
Game Hughes Powers.
This will be an interesting game to see if they try to blitz a little on the returns, get to the net. They've had some success there.
Haven't been doing any blitzing at all on the sidearm serve. I know you and Araya had a lot of success with that in Philly.
Yeah, if you can take it early, you can kind of almost try to beat the server to the net. But you've got to be able to take it off the deck pretty early and be willing to move after it. It's a good shot.
Great overhead. Durant forces the error.
That's that
15
cutter
love.
to John Hughes' forehand mark. That's really brutally difficult for Hughes to defend here.
Another big return from Powers. He is bringing
15
that
all.
forehand.
Thirty 15.
2 points from the set. And that brings us to double
40-15.
set point. There's a good forehand from Hughes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was definitely a questionable call from Durant.
40-30.
Still set point. Powers blitzes, misses the volley. Game in first set.
Game in first set.
Durant Mitchell 6-3.
6
Mark,
games
any
to
closing
3.
thoughts on what we're seeing?
I think you'll see Hughes and Powers come out with something a little different. You know,
And what would that be?
I think you saw some success with them at the net. I would start forcing a little bit, you know, trying to get to the net a little bit more, especially on the return games, because they seem to be getting there on the serve games. And I think you'll see a different second set from those two.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us. We'll be
Thank
back
you.
in a moment after these messages right here on the APTA Network, presented by eNet Live.
When people think of Roto-Rooter, they typically think plumbing and water cleanup. And they wouldn't be wrong. But there's also more to the picture. We do a little of this, we do a little of that. We clean things up and we check things out. Yeah, we may do both, but we also do a whole lot more. Roto-Rooter, yeah, we do that too.
Okay, welcome back to the APTA Nationals. We're in the semifinals. First set to Durant Mitchell. Patty, what do you think Hughes Powers have to do differently?
Okay, well, I'm just going to take a page out of the Mark Parsons book that they've got to be at the net more. Durant and Mitchell, when they're at the net, they're winning. What do you say? More than about 80% of the points.
Love
Mark?
15.
They just Hughes and Powers don't seem to have the formula, and Parsons made the comment that, you know, they're going to have to lob Powers more, and Johan up the line over Powers to try to force, you know, or keep the play away from that John Hughes lefty spin overhead.
Well, that hasn't been much of a problem for him
15
so
all.
far. A couple of Mitchell misses, but he's also punished a couple of Hughes overheads.
But I think Hughes is the one out here right now that's a little off. I don't feel like he's totally comfortable
15,
here
30.
yet today.
No, and he got
And-
hit there by the Durant forehand. His body language is not great.
Well, I just think there's a
15,
lot
40.
on him in this match, and you know, I don't know at what point you feel like you're the guy who's being hit. I've been in that position a lot when you're the one being picked on, and I think in nationals that's really tough to deal with.
30-40.
Durant catches the lead cord there, and it just goes long. One break point save, 30-40. (5-2) Borussia Dortmund on the next court. Good eye there from Hughes. The Mitchell lob goes long. Back to deuce. I think these
Deuce.
first couple games are critical for Hughes Powers. Not that they can't come back, but they don't want to get into a hole.
Right, and Durant and Mitchell are doing everything right now. And that's like Hughes and Powers' first set of their quarterfinals over Compton Kaler. They did everything right. Then all of a sudden, Compton Kaler, level of play went up.
What a get
Everything
from
kind of
Durant.
changed.
And he hits,
Wow.
Hughes gets hit in the head by the Powers overhead, which was going in.
You talk
Advantage
about
Durant
a
Mitchell.
rough start to a set.
But the athleticism of Durant, I mean, he kind of made a pass at that half volley, thought about trying for it, and then when it chased it down off the back wire, just kind of extended his arm out and flicked the lob back up. Just remarkable.
Wow.
That forehand almost knocked Hughes down.
When I saw Durant and Mitchell walk in this morning, Mark, I just felt that they were feeling it this morning. They had that look in their eyes.
Another real good forehand from Mitchell. Misses the ball long,
So,
and they're off to a fast start with the early
Game.
break.
Durant Mitchell.
They are
They
rolling.
lead the second set.
Yeah, and
1 game
Powers
to
right
love.
there. Really had to
Durant
just throw up a
Mitchell
lob,
won the
Mark,
first
and
set,
start
6
again.
games to 3.
I mean, they were in transition, and it's so tempting, and that's the thing. Oh, as you can see, the head hit. But Durant and Mitchell, they love to get all these teams in transition games and sort of bait them into hitting the ball faster than you're prepared to hit it. And I think Powers just kind of got suckered into that play there, an error, and a break of serve to start this second set.
Great read from Durant. The ball just dives as it hits the back wire. It's going sideways, but also just like a 45, 50 degree angle, headed straight down.
That's a good free shot right there of a little bit of the follow through on the Durant overhead.
Hughes and Powers are a lot of short lobs. Finally drive Durant out of the service box there.
Yeah, you saw an exaggerated follow through way up from John Hughes to try to get the height and the depth on his lob.
Powers went a long way to hit that forehand.
But 2 years ago when they started, you know, you see Mitchell just making these routine volleys. 2 years ago, Johan used to stick his paddle with his forehand in front of Steven. And that's just a huge transition in their game. What a get from Mitchell.
Oh, misplay on the wires from Durant. You don't see that too often.
Love 15.
Pretty tough spin coming on that overhead. Just died deep in that corner.
Pace of play much slower this set. See Hughes Powers very rarely, if ever, doing this, but they're slowing the play down. It's just great transition play from Durant. Hughes Powers were in
15
position,
all.
but that ball just came off the back wire a little bit too hot. And Powers couldn't handle the speed of the Durant forehand.
And that's the one spot between a lefty and a righty that they're a little vulnerable on, and Durant hit the ball to that one spot.
Rare missed forehand from Mitchell, some positive energy
15-30.
from Hughes. 15-30.
Yeah, a fist pump on a Mitchell miss. I mean, just shows the intensity out here.
Look at that volley from Durant.
Literally right off his sneakers.
A great pickup there from Hughes. That overhead just dove again.
Yeah, that's the cutter that's impacting John Hughes over there off of the
30
Durant
all.
paddle.
Powers coming over. Some words of encouragement for the partner. Great return from Hughes.
Yep.
30-40.
Wow. A bullet from Mark Powers. Great return of serve.
Game, Hughes Powers.
That was a much
Second
needed
set,
break right
tied,
there.
1-all.
Yeah, a rare first volley miss right there from John Hughes. An update on the other men's semifinal.
Get Broderick serving 3-5, 15-30. Another Hughes lead cord. Oh, what a get from Durant.
Look at those the little shots from Durant. No backswing, barely a follow through. Just blocking a ball, setting his paddle, picking his spot ahead of time.
Again, Mitchell stepping in front of Durant.
That never happened
And
a
there,
season ago.
and there the Hughes spin bothers Durant.
15-all.
Okay, Broderick Palmer hold from 15-30. Micker Doyle serve for the first set at 5-4 on the next court. Some misses creeping into
30,
the
15.
Durant-Mitchell game right now. See if Hughes Powers can continue this.
Yeah, really good. First volley. Hughes got so close to the net. Make sure he made that.
Good forehand from Mitchell, catches the seam. Yeah, I think they're having a little more success going to
30
Durant's
all.
side wire, keeping him a little more honest. And then Hughes just kind of laid that overhead up for Mitchell.
And Durant's playing fairly deep there. Sometimes we see him where he attacks, the first or second overhead. And I kind of feel like he's playing a little more passive and giving John Hughes a lot of room over there. Kind of tempting him to hit it into his side.
Well, his court positioning is so brazen. I mean, literally standing on the center stripe. I think you've got to keep him honest. Another big forehand from Mitchell. He is just hitting the ball so cleanly today.
So pure.
Big point there.
40-30.
Yeah, Johan snuck in, tried to hit a little lob volley there. Just didn't quite make it.
Great volley. Another great volley from Powers. Really drove that backhand volley. Yeah, that's the one they're just hanging out a little bit. Too many Mitchell forehands. Misses that one. We have a hold for Hughes Powers. Big
Game
fist
Hughes
pump from
Powers.
John Hughes, and they've won 2 in a
They
row.
lead the second set, 2-1. Durant Mitchell won the first set, 6-3.
Mark, it's amazing to me how, you know, a team can be on fire like Durant Mitchell that first set, and then simply by the set ending in a way, oftentimes the opponent who lost that first set just is freed up and can start, you know, approaching it a little bit different mentally.
Similar to what we saw
Nothing is-
last night.
Yeah, nothing else changes. The set is simply over, and all of a sudden everyone gets to start again. And right here, Hughes and Powers are off to a great start. 2-1, second set.
After getting broken in the first game.
Yeah, all of a sudden we thought it was going to go south.
Roderick Palmer are back from 5-1 to 5-4 and have 15-30 on the Ardoya serve. And that's a match where you think Roderick Palmer's going to win until they shake hands. And then maybe, just maybe, Roderick Palmer come back after the handshake.
Exactly.
And there Durant bails. Overhead was too hard. Sees Powers got a big swing at the ball. Okay, we have a return engagement.
Love 15.
So, Jim, you obviously brought your guys good luck yesterday, and then you left the booth, and they kind of fell apart a little bit.
Love
Today, we're
30.
hoping for the reverse.
Hoping for the reverse. Rough start for the boys so far, but Johan and Steve have been playing phenomenal paddle, especially in the volleys.
So, Jim Kaufman, what do you guys need to do? They're started to turn things around a little bit already. What do you want to see more of?
They got to hit lob better. They have to get Johan and Steve behind the service line in their lobs. And other than that, they're going to have to stay out here a longer and wait for
15-30.
Johan and Steve to drop half a level. If Johan and Steve keep playing like this, it's going to be tough to come back.
And isn't that the essence of competition, is recognizing what's going on the other side of the net, and when you have to slow it down and kind of give your opponent a chance to drop a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that ball is a little low to drive,
30
a little
all.
high risk.
A big game right here.
Yep, sure is.
Mitchell didn't hold in the first set.
Jim, were you in the stands for the second set last night?
I was. Is that a leading question, Patty?
No, I was just
assume
curious
you
because
didn't enjoy it as much as you enjoyed the first set.
how about
That's
the
correct.
play of Compton and Kaler against your boys out there? I
They
mean,
played really well, especially Compton. He's got so much offense.
well, I thought, yeah,
And
that was incredible.
they slowed
and
it down against Mark and John, and it worked really well for them.
I was curious. I thought that took a lot out of John and Mark. I mean, they had to really dig in deep,
Yeah,
and I
they sure
felt
did.
a tremendous sense of relief when they got through that
Oh,
match.
no question. Did not want to go 3. But I don't think they're tired today. They just played 4 sets yesterday.
Yeah, that's nothing for these guys.
Yeah, they're both super fit.
Hughes misses that one long.
40-30.
He's really struggled with that forehand today. We were talking about that earlier. Boy, a lot of negative energy
Game,
from
Durant
Hughes
Mitchell.
Powers,
Yeah, they're
Jim.
struggling. I think
Second
it's
set
very,
tied 2-all.
tough to play a team that volleys as well as Johan and Steve because you throw everything at them and nothing works. And that's why you have to lob them and get them past the service line to even have a chance. But
Jim,
they're hanging in.
Yeah, I've had many conversations with Mark Fischel over the years about the key to volleying and women's game, and you know that was one of the things I was going to look at as the difference in this match, possibly because Johan and Steven can set up 2 righty volleyers. Those guys have the wingspan, and
Yep.
they close in on the
Close on the net.
volleys.
They get tighter on the net than Mark
Yeah.
and John do.
Love 15.
And they can because there's two righties.
Yep. And they're big and fast.
That helps.
Helps.
Yeah, early on, Johan unloaded on a forehand and just found that perfect
Love,
seam
30.
between John and Mark.
Yep, this is a big game right here.
Boy, Mitchell's forehand has been tremendous
Return to
today.
serve, winning a ton of points.
You surprised you guys haven't made an adjustment? Australian, something different?
Yeah, they should try Australian or step up a little bit. He's winning a lot of points with his return, which I don't think they anticipated.
I have a coach question for you, Jim. Would they ever stay back?
I think they should. If they're losing too many points on return to serve, they're so good in the backcourt. I would stay back just to change the pace and maybe slow the match down.
I was just thinking at the end of that first set, I wonder if they would ever pull that tactic out.
They haven't done it much.
No, I've never seen them do it. So
But I think
if
I
you've
agree with
never
you.
done
I think
something,
yeah, I think it's worth a try.
Yeah, just way too many overheads over there. I think they're working too hard to keep the ball away from Randt.
I agree, Mark, but this is a very good, hard team to hit overheads against when
No question.
Steve's playing this well. Think of how few places on the court that are safe to hit the ball.
but I think that's what Powers has to do, hit more of the cutters and keep that ball low to Stephen Mitchell. Mark just hits that down up, and Mitchell's crushing
He's
the
crushing
shot.
it. Yep.
Broderick Palmer up 6-5. That's 5 consecutive games for them. It's like that overhead there Hughes got away with. That's the one I'd like to see him hit to the Durant side
15-30.
wire.
I agree.
I mean, Durant is standing on the center hash mark. You've got to push him over and keep him honest.
Easier said than done, though.
Absolutely. Nothing is easy against Durant.
Boy, Mitchell's returning so well.
Yeah, they're
Mark's
just-
got a great serve to the ad court and it's getting eaten up.
They're just scrambling to stay at every point.
I knew last year that Mitchell was going to improve. I didn't count on Johan improving.
Mark Parsons was in here in the first set talking about how much better of a paddle player Durant is in terms of his willingness to play the center of the court.
Yeah, no question.
30 all.
Been a huge step from the last 2 years.
Yep. Really, it's
30 all,
discipline.
30 all.
Much more discipline than he was 2 years ago.
But that was the first time I saw him reach in front of Mitchell for a volley. Mitchell's, that's what I said. I think the difference is Mitchell's seeing the ball so well
30,
on his
40.
volleys because Johan's not making the guest appearances, sticking his paddle in front of him.
That's the
A little dangerous there.
one of the few serves to Mitchell where they're able to take the net. Big
Deuce.
miss there. Jim, you've competed with a lot of athletes in your time. Not to
Advantage,
suggest that you're
Durant,
old,
Mitchell.
but you are. But regardless of that, have you ever seen one like Durant?
No, he's incredible. He's got a lot of gifts.
Oh my gosh. What a
Oh,
get.
he hits the net. Unbelievable athleticism from Hughes.
Yep. He hit the net, hit the net.
Ends up hitting the net, and
Hit the
it's 3-2. Durant Mitchell.
Game, Durant Mitchell.
Boy, and all his athletic
They lead the
prowess
second
was on
set, 3
display
games to
there.
2.
Great shot.
The hands, the touch, the
Durant
power.
Mitchell won the first set, 6 games to 3.
It's just crazy to me. He wasn't a top 20 tennis player.
Johan got a new one
He
for
has
you.
all the gifts, that's for sure.
Johan, new ball.
Switching balls. Jim, if you're out there with your guys right now, other than lob better, what are you telling them?
Give
I
that-
think they
give
need
that
to
one a
get
spin
closer
there,
enough
Johan,
for
make
first
sure.
volleys. Their service games are way too much work, and it's all starting with the other guys are returning really well, but John and Mark are not close enough for the first volley.
I
And
think that-
like you said, if they can't get closer, then they should stay back. But they haven't tried much Australia, and they haven't stayed back. So I'd probably try to change the pace a little bit.
Yeah, they've only held twice in 7 tries. And John and Mark have two of the best serves in the country.
But I think it's so hard when Durant and Mitchell are returning so well, and
yep.
one of them is moving up, and you're running up after that serve, and you catch the eye of that person straight on. That is scary and difficult. I always think these matches at this level come down to who can make that tactical adjustment and be willing to go with something else.
Try something different.
Like admitting you're in a struggle here and realizing you're down a set here, 6-3, down 3-2. Something's got to give a little bit. I mean, there's not that much difference, but tactically, I do think there's a few things your guys could do out here, Jim.
Great read from
Patty.
Hughes there.
Yeah,
and the
great
down up
anticipation
overhead.
by John there.
Yeah, look at that overhead. Jim, what I kind of get the feeling that Durant and Parsons, you know, they're just throwing up one more lob than we're used to seeing them do.
15
At the
love.
moment. Like they're foregoing the first opportunity
I agree. They're playing very disciplined.
frequently, and I think that's what has prevented Hughes and Powers from closing in. And then all of a sudden, when they do pull the trigger, they're just a little bit off the net.
Great volley from Mitchell. And that forehand was so well spotted from Hughes. Played a great point, and now they're just back to square one.
Too many short lobs.
And they can't find Mitchell a little bit more, Jim. You know,
I mean,
it's-
Mitchell's volleying as well as Johan.
But I mean, on the lob, make Mitchell hit a lot more overheads really hard off of the spins.
Yeah,
Durant's just controlling
he
the
controls
point.
the whole middle of the court, so it's hard to do.
Yeah.
We also talked earlier, Patty, about how that's the overhead that Durant likes so much when he comes over to his right, and he can really torque the ball and spin it.
Yeah, right there. And I like it where he comes underneath that ball, and that ball's just staying so low on Hughes and Powers.
Now, there was a great shot from Hughes, soft drive that set up
15
the
all.
Powers forehand.
Yeah, I don't know if Mitchell was contemplating bailing or not right there, Jim. Kind of got caught sideways trying to make the volley.
So that's the overhead I think they've got to get away from.
Thirty 15.
That's what I'm talking about. Just when you think Johan is doing a certain pattern of shots,
Yeah,
right
he's
there
very-
he
very-
bounced.
very
Just a
unpredictable.
little earlier in the point.
I mean, we can talk a lot about strategy, but one team's winning a ton of points on return of serve, and the other team's winning none.
Wild backhand from Powers there. Point for
40
4-2.
15.
They look a little lost to me, Jim.
Well, and
Positional
Dur-
move.
Durant and Mitchell are just playing an incredibly high level
40.
here.
Yep,
30.
they sure are.
They're giving nothing to Hughes and Powers.
Mitchell's positional volleying is so good for a
Yeah.
young player.
Solid.
Wow.
What a
What
volley
hands
from
from
Randt.
Durant right there.
I mean, he and Hughes couldn't have been more than 3 feet apart. First set to Broderick Palmer, 7-5. They win the last 6 games of the
There's
set.
a great forehand. And he hits right back through in transition. Johan's not giving any free points the way he did 2-3 years ago. Used to be
Nothing.
1 or 2 a game. Now they're none.
I think he's missed 1 overhead in the match.
Well, incredibly, Durant is playing high percentage paddle here.
Yeah, he sure is.
I mean, there's not that much risk to anything he's doing out here.
Great first volley by Mitchell. Great bail, and it's
Game,
4-2.
Durant Mitchell. They
Okay,
lead the
Jim,
second
thank you very
set,
much for
4
joining
games
us.
Thanks, Mark.
Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Patty.
it.
Okay, Jim.
Yeah, they do look a little lost, Patty. Just not sure what to do, where to win points.
Yeah, Coach Kaufman's feeling a little nervous, wants to go outside and get close to the action here and hope he can send some positive vibes to Hughes and Powers here, down 2-4 and down a set, 6-3. Semis of the 2020 Nationals in Darien, Connecticut.
15 love.
Another great ball from Mitchell. You know, again, I mean, that was a tough
15
ball.
all.
That's a ball you expect to see John Hughes put in play. Just misplayed it, let it drop a little bit too low.
You can kind of feel their frustration out here, Mark, from John Hughes, I think, is really at that moment in this match where he's got to dig in really deep and find a way. And he can. We've seen it.
What was that? 30-15.
Rare miss return from Mitchell.
40-15.
This will be a breath of fresh air. Have an easy game for these guys.
Incredible spin off the Hughes overhead there, Mark.
Another great lob from Durant. We talk about pouncing. That's just awesome from Hughes. And they have a
Game,
hold.
Hughes Powers. Durant Mitchell lead the second set 4-3.
I think this is obviously a critical game for Hughes Powers. They've had a lot of success against the Mitchell serve. Uline is the leading distributor of shipping, industrial, and packaging materials to businesses throughout North America. They ship over 2.5 million boxes every day, but they are so much more than a box company. More than 32,000 quality products always in stock and ready to ship. Outstanding customer service means they're here when you need them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Uline, the best selection, products, and people for an unforgettable customer experience.
So Stephen Mitchell serving up 4-3 with Johan Durant. Semis men's nationals against Hughes and Powers.
Oh, what a transition ball off the seam. But again, there have been so few points Hughes and Powers are winning on return of serve as comparison with Durant Mitchell.
You know, Mark, and I think it's about that first volley for Hughes and Powers here. They're just really struggling on it today because of the great return of serves. Because you really don't see at the highest level that many winners on the return of serve. It's more of like forcing a guy to
15
miss a
love.
volley, and they're forcing the misses here.
Yes, they are. And Mitchell going overhand.
Yeah. And Hughes and Powers have just thrown in just too many return of serve errors flat out, and that's the difference.
15 all.
Interesting serve from Mitchell. Kind of out of nowhere went with the overhand serve.
Well, he hit one a little while ago into the ad corner. And I was shocked what a great serve it was, having not hit it here.
Back-to-back lob
in an hour.
errors.
15-30.
Pretty gigantic point right here, Mark. Another shoestring volley there from Stephen Mitchell. Mark, how about John Hughes? That's it. Lobbing up the line and pulling Johan up the line to open up the cross court maybe a tiny bit.
Well, that's the lob I like. Is lobbing to Johan, not away from him. But there, Johan catches the nick.
30 all.
And Hughes misses another one. But you could just see he's struggling with his confidence right now. That's a good ball to swing at. He misses it though.
40-30.
Just hit it a little too flat right there, Mark. I think he's been working on adding a little bit more topspin to that shot.
And there's another great example. Just a tremendous return from Powers. But Mitchell's got the answer. And now they're in control of the net. Hughes and Powers usually so dynamic in the backcourt. Yep, there's a big forehand from Powers. Takes us back to deuce.
Deuce.
I love what John Hughes just did there. Just kind of move in. He knew that Powers was totally in control of that drive, and he just moved in. And I don't know if that affected the volley or not, but those are the kinds of risks that
Well,
they
did you
kind
see
of
that?
have to take here.
Big come on from Durant.
Advantage,
Usually you don't see
Durant
much
Mitchell.
much in the way of responses from him.
And not in a language that we understand what he's saying.
Another point for 5-3. Boy, it's so much easier to serve when Durant's at the net too. Sticking those big wings out, making those volleys. Not that Mitchell's needed much help. Wow, great forehand from Powers, and Durant has the answer.
Pretty nice volley from Mitchell, 3/4 back.
Just amazing action. Big overhead from Hughes, and we're back to deuce.
Deuce.
Love seeing the positive energy coming from him. Sven Burish took a little bit of a dive on the next court. I'm sure he cut his hands up.
The good thing is it's his left hand.
What about for his two-handed backhand? And
good
Durant with another big come on as he catches the
Advantage,
nick.
Durant Mitchell.
They'll have another point for 5-3. Look at that volley from Mitchell. I mean, that was great return from Powers.
I think Powers might be well served to move it around. You know, you would never want to tell Mark Powers to hit anywhere but the middle cross court, but they're onto it. I really haven't seen too many people take a shot at Durant at the net on the other hand.
I mean, that was a vicious forehand that Powers hit, and Durant had the answer. I feel like Hughes Powers played a great point. Should have won it a couple of times, and Durant's just pulled off some amazing recoveries.
You know, that's the lob, yeah, that John Hughes had to hit. And, oh, you know, Jan just went back, put it in the side corner of Powers. Powers was forced to throw up another lob.
You've seen very little of the roller today from Mitchell, his little snap roller. I mean, again, just a great backhand from Powers. Durant has the answer. He's a man on a mission, Patty.
Yeah, when he plays well, it is just so enjoyable to watch. Even when he plays poorly, Mark, I find him enjoyable to watch.
I think he's my favorite paddle player to watch.
Well, I don't want to say my favorite, Mark. I have a lot of favorites.
Then they're not your favorite.
Favorites.
I mean, look at him flip the paddle there.
Wow.
I mean, what a point. Big come on from Durant, and they're a game
Durant
away
Mitchell.
from a spot in the national
They lead
finals.
The second set, 5-3.
I mean, Hughes Powers played a fantastic point, right?
They did. They have no answers today for for Durant and Mitchell. That's because Durant and Mitchell just playing a lights out match here, Mark. The semis and nationals. Incredible.
Love 15.
So interesting, Patty. These teams played in Boston. Hughes tore Mitchell up. You thought if they play in the final, play again at Nationals, there's no way they can beat him. And here we are a little over a month later, and they're handling them with relative ease. Well, they get away with that one, but that's not a winning recipe.
30-15.
Yeah, Mitchell coming in off of the Durant return to serve. Daunting.
That was a good forehand off of a spinning overhead.
And that volley from Mike Powers. Oh, great adjustment from John Hughes on that ball.
Durant is just everywhere. Another great
30
point
all.
from Mitchell, too.
He just makes you miss. He sucks you into this action. You know, that's high speed and forces you to miss. I think Mark Powers had to hit a lob volley there. He just had no place to go and sort of went for an aggressive shot. So
Another
we're 2
through return.
points away from Durant and Mitchell. Making it to the finals.
Did you catch that one, Patty?
I almost caught it.
40-30.
I think if you tried harder. John Lubau's getting the ball, returning it.
Well, that's the John Lubau look-alike. A lot of people confuse John Lubau with a lot of people.
Point for 5-4. Great lob from Durant. I thought he missed that one.
I think he did.
Yep, called out. Confirmed by
Deuce.
chair umpire.
Big swinging volley. We've seen him make it a million times. But this is the semis of nationals.
Advantage
Everything's
Hughes
harder.
Powers.
Another chance for Hughes Powers to get to 5-4. Look at that blitz from Durant. So
It's
much
just-
feel.
Hit such a soft volley is amazing right there.
What a get from Hughes. Durant just got so much variety.
Deuce.
Just won't let him out of this game.
Wow, what a snap overhead Powers just hit from 3/4 back.
But that's all they had to do was take control of the net.
There we
Great
go. The
Slash from
cutter.
Powers.
Advantage Hughes Powers.
Great hold for Hughes Powers.
Game Hughes Powers. Durant Mitchell lead the second set 5-4.
And Johan Durant will serve for the match and a spot in the
Durant
national
Mitchell won the
finals.
first set 6-3.
Yeah, back-to-back cutter win that went, ended up winning the point there for Hughes and Powers, Mark. And we've not seen Mark Powers hit that many cutters. He just hasn't hit many overheads other than the ones, into Stephen Mitchell's corner, because John Hughes has taken a majority of the middle balls. But I wonder if they're onto something there.
Well, it's partially a result of the lobbing from Durant Mitchell. They've lobbed really well. There, Hughes beats Durant in transition. Some real
Love
energy.
15.
Hughes Powers are one of the best competitive teams out here. They're not going anywhere. They're going to play through to the last point. What a volley from Mitchell.
Yeah, short serve from Duran.
15
and
all.
Powers had a little something there. Couldn't convert.
Two points from the match.
15.
Mark, do we get a quick update on the other semi?
One love, Broderick Palmer.
Thank you.
It was deep.
Okay, Durant serve called long and confirmed by the chair. 30 all.
Ball was deep. 30 all.
Yeah, a little shorter serving from Duran here in this game. Hughes and Powers are doing a great job of not feeding the Stephen Mitchell forehand as this set has gone on, Mark. So that's kind of gone away a little bit.
Another
Wow,
great
just
lob.
another great lob from Durant. Talk about a right hip volley from Mitchell right there.
Durant pulls him out of the corner, and it's
40,
match
30.
point. Boy, Durant is emoting so much more than I've ever seen him. You know how badly he wants this. That was a little bit of a blurt from Durant. You don't see that too often.
Deuce.
Match point saved from Hughes Powers. Oh, Powers wants that one back.
Advantage, Durant, Mitchell.
Match point number 2. I think Durant's getting a little tight,
Deuce.
Patty. Just a
think-
little bit.
This whole service game has been a little bit tighter, Mark.
Yeah, John Hughes, are you kidding?
Advantage, Durant, Mitchell.
Perfect position for that ball. Match point number 3, goes overhand and he faults again. First
Deuce.
overhand serve of the match from Durant.
Yep.
Sidearm here. Breaking news, Barisher Doya won a game.
Another game, Mark.
Another game. Well, it's been a while since they've won one. They lost 7 consecutive games. And again, that newfound patience from Durant. A lot of balls in the middle, willing to hit a lot of patient overheads. Not going for too much.
Great rip up the line from John Hughes.
And Mitchell comes a little far to the middle, and it's break point for Hughes Powers.
Advantage, Hughes, Powers.
And they're fighting like the champions they are. Exactly what you'd expect. Durant's probably wondering why he couldn't get that serve in at match point. Great crowd here. People starting to file in at the Country Club at Darien. I think we'll have upwards of 1,300 people here today.
Fun to watch that packed grandstand straight out there behind this court, Mark.
Great blitz from Powers. Point for 5-all here. Yeah, and then he puts the ball in the Durant forehand, and the roar.
Deuce.
Yeah, and he
Roar from
didn't
Durant.
really seal off the middle. He kind of hung out and watched and waited and then reacted and didn't come up with it. Mark Powers has not missed a drive in about a half hour,
Advantage
Mark
Hughes
Official.
Powers.
Another opportunity for 5-all. What a
Wow.
little flick from Powers. Again, Powers playing a brilliant point, and Randt Mitchell with all the answers.
Uh-oh.
Well, again, another roar from Randt.
Deuce.
Yeah, you just knew that short lob was going to produce an evil thing from the Randt paddle.
Look at Randt closing off the net.
Tell you, I'd like to see Powers take more of these middle balls. I know John Hughes is trying to find his way, but I feel like Powers is feeling it. Like even that, get Powers to sneak in, take a little bit more.
You know, I don't think we've seen one real hard overhead from Randt the whole match. Okay,
Advantage Randt
match
Mitchell.
point number 4. 2 faults and a missed forehand from Randt. Let's see if they can close it out here.
Wow, what a deep serve right there.
Oh, what a get from Hughes off the nick. Another great get. That ball just dove away from Hughes. I thought it was Powers' ball. And there it is, game, set, and match. Randt Mitchell, 6-3,
Game,
6-4.
set, match.
Wow.
Randt
Patty,
Mitchell.
any closing thoughts?
6-3, 6-4.
Just an incredible performance by Randt and Mitchell here. They had that look in their eye this morning, and I just had a feeling they've had a pretty easy go of it throughout the tournament, Mark. And I think that match that, you know, with Compton Kaler last night that Hughes and Powers had, I just think took a little bit out of them.
Yeah, maybe, but Randt Mitchell just played so brilliantly today. It's just hard to see them losing at this pace of play. But again, Durant's willingness to play the middle of the court, to play more patient, you know, reset overheads, just makes him such a force.
How many volleys did Randt Mitchell miss that match? And how many return of serves did they miss? Fewer than a handful.
Yep.
On both.
Okay, we're going to be back in a moment with an interview with our winners right after these messages here on the APTA Network, presented by eNet Live. Okay, welcome back to the APTA Nationals. I'm joined by our first national finalists, Johan Durant and Stephen Mitchell. Guys, that was a tremendous performance. Stephen?
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Yeah, I thought we played well, had a game plan, and executed it mostly cleanly. Yeah.
Well, you came out just ripping that forehand and really had an impact on the match early with your return of serve.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been feeling good all week, so I kind of try to keep it going. That's how I can put some pressure on guys from my end.
And Johan, I haven't seen you so emotive. A lot of emotion, a lot of positive energy from you. Usually you just go about your business. It was interesting to see.
Yeah, I guess I'm getting old.
It beats the alternative, doesn't it?
This is true.
And you also look like you got a little bit tight closing the match out, which is also something I haven't seen much from you.
Yeah, that underhand serve is good, but it gets a little tight at times. You know, it's harder to make it. So I'm getting used to it. Another year, and I probably won't miss those. But yeah, today I missed a couple. But hey, it's the way it goes. We won in the end, so it's all good.
And Johan, we've noticed your willingness to play the longer points, to play the middle of the court, hit the reset overhead, something that we didn't see too much of that from you a couple years ago. What do you attribute that to?
It's a long story. I think the less you play, the harder it is to be like that. When I started playing, I was very disciplined when I got the hang of it, which you guys might not have noticed because you weren't in the broadcasts then, you know. But used to be very disciplined then, and then I think I lost it a little bit, but also because I didn't play so much. So it's hard to make good decisions if you're not comfortable with your shot. So this year I played a little bit more. You know, the more you play, the easier those decisions and the patience and all the other things are. The less you play, the more stupid decisions you make, you know, because you're used to what you were able to do, but you can't play that way if you don't play enough. So I guess the answer is play more.
And this is the first time you've had a partner who lived in the same city as you. So you and Stephen obviously are close. You have a business together. You practice together a bunch.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, we used to be neighbors back in the day. So Stephen can actually tell me something, and I kind of listen. You know, nobody else can really, except maybe my wife. You know, my wife can maybe tell me, but that's just occasionally that I listen. But that's a rare skill.
That's a lot of power, Stephen. You want to tell us about where that comes from? I didn't think Johan listened to anybody.
I think in about a 2-hour match, I get maybe 2 things I can say. Slow down twice. That's about it. The third time, he'll tell me to go somewhere else.
Well, that puts you way ahead of everybody else in the world. Guys, congrats on making the finals. Really looking forward to seeing you play. Any thoughts? It looks like it's going to be Broderick Palmer. They're up a set and a break, but long way to go. Johan, you've played them a couple of times?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll watch a little bit and see if we can figure out a game plan. I kind of have an idea how to play them, but they're tough. They volley really well. They're good at the net. You know, it's going to be a bit of a war. It's not going to be easy, that's for sure.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, guys, and good luck in the finals. Looking forward to watching.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, man.